Hi there, I'm E.A. Tischler, founder of New Horizons Golf Approach. Today I'd like to talk about another aspect of the swing that helps you sustain the line of compression. And what that is getting your swing slotted properly so you can deliver that club down the proper inclined plane as we move through the ball. I've got set up here today a shaft that's going to be matching the initial angle of the shaft as we get set up at address. So if I get set up to this golf ball, this shaft and the orange stick are going to be relatively on the same plane right now. Well, a lot of people believe you are supposed to deliver that club back to the ball at exactly the same angle that it started at. Okay, this is what I call hip plane slotting. As we get set up, the shaft is aligned in the hip plane slot. That's the inclined plane that runs up through the hip girdle. So as we go back, that club initiates up that plane. Then as the right arm folds, it elevates off of that plane. As we start our downswing, a lot of golfers will return that club down into that slot, and they will deliver that club in that slot as they come into the ball. So for people that have the biomechanics that are built to be hip plane slotters, this is something they need to do. However, there are three slots. There's a torso plane slot, which is a little bit more upright than this one, and there's a shoulder plane slot that's even more upright. I believe that you need to find out which one fits your biomechanics, and if you're going to sustain the line of compression, you want to deliver it in that slot. Okay, so hip plane slotters, they're going to take that club back more on that hip plane slot. They're going to elevate it as they fold their right arm. They're going to return back down into that hip plane slot, and they're going to deliver it in that hip plane slot as they move into the golf ball. Having in this proper slot allows you to get that club approaching the ball with the right amount of inside, from the inside down and out attitudes that we need to sustain this line of compression. Keep in mind, to sustain the line of compression, that golf club is moving down, it's moving out towards the ball line, and it's also moving through. So we're moving in three-dimensional space. And getting this club slotting properly at the proper angle for you is going to keep that club moving down, out, and through to the proper degrees so that you can go ahead and make sure you're sustaining that line of compression as you move through the ball. Okay, let's take a look now at what torso plane. Okay, now I have the orange stick set up so I can see what the torso plane looks like. A good indication of what torso planing is what Mo Norman did. Any of you that have seen Mo Norman swing, you know that when he got set up, his hands were much higher at address than the average golfers. Well, he put his hands in the position where the shaft much more mirrored where this is right now. So if I get set up, when I bring my hands up right here, you can see I'm much more on the torso plane. When I set my wrist, this club is in a position where it's much more on a plane that runs up through the middle of my torso in the golf swing. Keep in mind, a lot of torso plane slotters are going to start with that club in the hip plane slot. They're going to actually take it back on a little lower path, and they're going to elevate to the top of the backswing, and then from there they're going to bring it right down that torso plane into the golf ball. Again, if your body's built to be a torso plane slotter, you can either set up and put that club in the torso plane slot to begin with, much more like a Mo Norman did, or you can start out more in a traditional manner. You can actually go back underneath the torso plane slot, elevate up, and then come down that torso plane slot in the downswing. If your body's built to do it that way, you're going to find you're going to be able to sustain the line of compression a lot better by delivering that club in that torso plane slot. Okay, let's take a look at the shoulder plane slot now and see what that looks like. Shoulder plane slotter, when they get set up, they're going to get set up in such a way that they want to make sure that when they make their takeaway, that club's going up the shoulder plane slot, and it's going to go ahead and come down that shoulder plane slot. There are a couple ways of doing this actually. Some people will set up in a more standard position with that shaft going up through the hip plane slot. From there they make a takeaway that stretches it up on the shoulder plane so that they can come right back down that shoulder plane coming down. Some golfers these days actually set up with their arms completely up into the shoulder plane slot to begin with. And from there they can go directly up that shoulder plane and right back down that shoulder plane as they come into the ball. We also see a lot of golfers that do it in what they call more of a natural way, where they get set up in the hip plane slot, they take it back a little bit more inside and elevate it up to the top just like that torso plane slotter did, and then from there they come straight down that shoulder plane into the golf ball. So again, there's three different slotting actions. We got hip plane slot, torso plane slot, and shoulder plane slot. You need to know which one fits you, and you need to match it up for your biomechanics so that when you're delivering that club down that proper slot, your club is going to be moving down, out, and through at the right degree so you can sustain the line of compression. Let's recap some of the concepts we talked about for sustaining the line of compression. In the first video, I talked about how you wanted the club to be planing so that one end of the club or the other was always pointed at the target line or the ball line, unless the shaft was parallel to the ground, where we want it to be parallel to the target line. So again, it was tracing that plane until it was parallel to the ground and the target line, hinged up, the butt of the club pointed at the ball line until parallel at the top, coming down, the butt of the club pointed at the target line until the shaft was parallel to the ground and the target line. Then we traced that line as we went through. So getting that shaft planing was the first criteria. The next thing we looked at is how we utilize the body in generating that lag force so that we could drive that club face through the ball in such a way that we could keep that ball trapped on that club face long enough to sustain the line of compression. In the second video, we talked about aim point procedures and how using an aim point procedure can help you keep that club moving down, out, and through to the right degree so you can sustain the line of compression. And today we covered getting your swing slot working in the right swing slot, whether it was hip plane slot, torso plane slot, or shoulder plane slot. Remember, getting that club slotted properly during the delivery action is going to help you sustain that line of compression. There's one other feature that helps us, it's what we call swing linkage. I've covered that in a couple other videos. You can look them up there on YouTube.